stepson was terribly naughty today, Elliot.
What did he do?
Oh my God.
Ate the couch?
No, we went out in the morning to the lake, and then his other buddy came, and he would not go home with me. He walked all the way with them.
Oh.
Yeah, because they take a different route. I had to just wait in the parking lot. Yeah.
There he is, the captain of the fire tug-of-war team. That was so fun last night. No, you like the picture? Yeah. Well, the fire department, you guys are going to kill them until I limited it to 17 people. It was unbelievable before they got killed. I was going to say, did they do PED testing on the police there beforehand?
Who won?
I told Brady, for a tug-of-war team, this guy
I don't
really
believe
like
it.
fighters.
The police won.
Oh, the tug-of-war?
Yeah.
They cheated. They pulled the guns out. They had to give in.
Well, I appreciate the ongoing outreach.
I would think nobody's a better shape than the fire.
Long time no see. So you saw this guy last night too?
Oh, yeah.
You saw him there.
Oh, that's a good idea. The press table? Yeah.
That was mine. I know. I was a boy editor when I was 24.
He's still 19. He's doing all right.
He's doing real well. He has the energy.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll be all right.
I've got it stuck to your breath.
So we should get Mr. Sullivan a name plate.
A name? No, please. Just press. That's XXX or something like that.
Your front
Generic.
Oh,
Geez, this chair.
I'm sure you could ride that one too.
here, I'll show
Hey,
you.
Red.
Oh, poor Scott is the holy here. Well, like I said,
No, well, I don't.
look at it two ways.
Yeah, that's about
Well, I'm a holy. Well, there's holes in that logic.
Yeah, her office called yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
Is Mary Wiper?
Yeah.
Did say that?
Nope.
No, it'll be after.
Called after the
Oh, okay.
package. Right. We usually let her go first.
Yes.
Thanks for the letter.
No. Oh, should be. The button's on.
Hello.
The camera's not on.
Hello.
Did something else get
Oh,
turned
I'm
off?
sorry. Never mind. Tower's on. Is there
Yeah.
another switch that needs?
There wasn't usually.
I know. It's our mic, right? We finally had it down. Nothing's making makes sense.
I gotta pull on a new head.
I tried to turn it off.
Yes. This proves they have dementia.
Well, we have.
Not easy.
I wish we would.
Yeah, I mean, the youngsters
And he said-
do, you don't have to worry.
No.
Yep. But nobody played with this at all, did they? I didn't touch it. What? We can project, right? Yes. I know I. 5:59. I know I can. Yeah, okay. Doesn't look any different.
And everything's on.
Well, maybe the TV's taken away from the voice.
No.
No, I don't think so. I
No,
don't
those
think
aren't
it's
so bad.
at all.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order, the meeting of regular board meeting of Wednesday, August 7, 2019 at 6 o'clock. Everybody we'll get the roll call. I see that we are all present. So everybody would stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we have public comment. Is anybody in the first row that would like to say anything? Second row? Last row? Last table? Okay. Approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes, additions, or deletions?
John, did you say Mary Whiteford was scheduled to come?
Yes.
So are we okay if we just kind of insert her as she arrives, if she arrives? Okay.
Okay, now let's look at our invoices. Has everybody had a chance to review that?
Yep. Yes, I have.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve the invoices.
I move to approve the invoices as stated.
Is there support?
I second that.
Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then we have another accounts payable invoices. These are the ones that you handed out.
Right, these came in this week, we processed, since the packet went out.
They all look pretty.
Normal monthly bills.
Yep. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the additional bills that came in after the packets were distributed in the amount of $67,599.93.
I'll second that.
Hold on, can I, that's the total of both of them together.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we approved the one, this is the total, I think, right, or no? Oh, we don't have.
That's the grand total, yes.
Oh, so we have to, here, let's do it. Let me do a little math here. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. I move that we approve the additional bills received after the bills were vouchered in the amount of $5,501.90. Support?
I'll support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes?
Yes. All those opposed? Motion carries. And then next we have John.
Do we have, oh, no, yeah, the minutes are not out of order, I think. I think that's good.
I might have to cede my time to the, gentlewoman from South Haven.
Yes.
Hi, I was just gonna do my treasurer's report, but
Oh, thank you.
shall we let,
This is
this week or so for.
It's her sister.
Okay, got it.
We had no public comment, so things got going fast for today.
Thanks for coming.
Beautiful Daisy. Riding around.
Yeah.
Actually, I just hit Highfield Beach, which is a subdivision in Saugatuck Township.
Oh, where?
Highfield Beach, it's called.
Were any homes damaged?
Oh, how are you? Good.
Right, thank you. He was wondering if you'd recognize me.
Well, it helps that I saw you a little bit ago. So, as I finish passing these out, I just want to thank you guys. I've been in office for 3.5 years. Amazing, time flies. but I think we're really accomplishing a lot. So I'm gonna give you a quick update on roads in the budget. Everybody's very concerned about that. We've been working really, really hard all summer with the budget director and the DHHS, which is under the governor as well. So, we're in a really good place to get this budget finished and give certainty to everybody. I know, I actually chair half the state budget, DHHS, it's the Department of Health and Human Services, and that's a big safety net for the people of Michigan. I had somebody say, hey, out of $26 billion, can I have some? I said, no. No, because this helps our foster children and trying to keep them safe, and that's been a whirlwind because we came under a really bad Supreme Court case ruling because kids were dying under foster care. And if you think about it, those children are wards of the state. Yeah, that's okay, I'll get it in a moment, okay? They're wards of the state, so they're the parents of the state of Michigan, completely responsible. So we're redoing the system that caseworkers go on to be able to report when they have a CPS case, go into their homes, and we've got quite a few of them in our county, and they say, this system goes down every weekend, or they'll be inputting information and it shuts down, and they have to redo it all. So these poor people who are trying so hard to protect the kids of our county and our state are dealing with all of this. So I'm really staying on top of that. We also have quite a few other computer systems that the state has. So the state doesn't house these computer programs. They actually contract it out to outside companies. And there's at least a dozen other companies out there that are doing this. So we have one system where child support happens. It's about a $200 million department to administer $1.2 billion that comes in from non-custodial parents. I'm like, okay, I think I could do a lot better with that extra $200 million of a department and make sure it's getting to families. But, so I found out what company was housing that program itself, which is about $45 million a year. And I said, hey, what's going on? Are you doing anything innovative? Are you going cloud-based, you know? And they said, oh, well, nobody's called us in years. So I was talking to the new director of the department, who I've really had a good relationship with, and I said, you know, this is what happened. I'm just a lowly representative. I called the company that's supposed to be working with the department. He's like, well, it looks like we don't need as many middlemen. Which is true, you know. We need to make sure that we've got checks and balances, and I will honestly say this last administration was frozen between Flint, between all the political things going on. They didn't make any strong decisions, and it's time to do it, because we're disrespecting the people of Michigan. So, off my little platform there, it just drives me crazy. So that's going on. I'm doing some innovative things with community mental health. I know we hear about it all the time. We have some families. So we have community mental health, which is Medicaid, people with severe mental illness or drug addiction, or all of our DVs, developmentally delayed kids. I call them forever children, so like Down syndrome. So they are the responsibility of our Allegan CMH. And our CMH makes all the decisions for them. And I've had families come up to me and say, wait, it's why I keep getting services cut to my children. I said, well, I'm thinking to myself, you should be able to make a decision for your child. So one of the provisions I put into my budget was that families could opt out of a community mental health system and opt into a different thing. We have something called PACE, which is community support for seniors who would normally be in nursing homes, to help them be at home. And they've got this support that's out of Holland. They cover all of Allegan County. And I talked to them last year. I'm like, hey, do you think you could take care of some of our forever children in this? They're like, well, we have some senior citizens, 65 and older, that we're taking care of. So I want people to have more of a choice, more options, because a lot of families, they can make good decisions for their forever children. It doesn't have to be completely up to CMH. And then the whole funding issue is so incredibly complicated. So I'm devoting all of October within my committee to have an open and honest conversation about our community mental health system and the way we do it. Because we're pretty unusual in our state, the fact that it's called carving out. So we have all our Medicaid, we carve out all of our behavioral health issues into a totally separate silo, and they don't connect. So, and there's not very many states in the country that do it that way. So, just one of the many things I'm working on. A big issue has always been broadband. Fortunately, we've had a lot of headway because we've done big squeaky wheels between Township and Saugatuck Township that we're getting Comcast to keep extending. And are you finding they're in your township yet? Or is it still in Town? Okay, good.
Oh, no, they're advanced.
Awesome, and that's what I wanted to hear from you guys.
They don't share their plans, and everyone asks us, so I refer them to the regional VP in Grand Rapids.
Perfect.
We don't.
That's what we want. And I'm the biggest squeaky wheel out there. Got a lot of attention on that. And so we actually, set aside $20 million in grants to communities to help fund that. So they just opened up the application periods of, July 1st. I wanted township supervisors to be able to start that process. I think that's why the broadband bill that I had didn't make it to the floor, because all the industries, they wanted to control everything.
So how do new grants work? Is it something we should look at?
So what this is you find, so you're already getting Comcast into it, but what you do is you have an unserved or minimally served area of your area. You contact one of the providers that are there and ask them to make that application.
They have to.
Yes. But if you go and be a squeaky wheel and say, hey, I've got this area, we need some help, I need you to apply for this, you should. Or tell them I'll call them.
Can I ask a quick question? Once they lay the cable or fiber optics, whatever it is, how long does it actually take? Because I'm in one of those somewhat unserved areas, and it's been a long time since they laid it. I'm just wondering if you know. And
Why
they
they're
can't
not
answer you when you call them.
Yeah. Well, they lay the fiber cable, but to be able to split it out. Sometimes you can have it run right by your house, and they can't have an access point from there. So they should be asking, but just call my office.
Okay.
And tell me what company it is, and I'll get directly with their lobbyist or their government affairs person. Okay. So there's $20 million there. It's been a very difficult year farming. I actually drove west out to Montana. They're under the same problem as we are, the crisis that we have so much cold weather, so much rain. So we set aside $15 million in grants to help farmers get low interest loans, and we put that up just a couple months ago. Auto insurance reform. Yeah, and we passed a huge bill. I mean, it hasn't happened in 30 years because everybody was looking for perfection. Well, one thing that I've learned in this process is you can have a bill and you can revise it. Most of the bills that we have in the state of Michigan in the legislature are just revisions of current acts. So we finally got it out. We worked really closely with the governor. I mean, it was almost a miracle, honestly. So we're getting that rolled out so that we can have options. For our family, we're going to save 40% by opting out of full lifetime benefits, but if somebody wants to have that extra, then they can pay for that, and so they'll decrease their auto insurance payments by 10%. So there's some options in there. There's some checks and balances telling all of the medical care, the healthcare providers that have been getting 10 to 20 times more than health insurance gets for their procedures, that they have 3 years to start bringing that in line, which sounds like a long time, but that was one of the compromises that we had to do. There was a lot of compromising. Now, me personally, I would rather have it be person-centered, so if somebody has an accident, the two insurance companies figure out what's it going to take to keep that person alive for as long as they're going to live, set that money aside. I mean, that's what I know other states do that. That would be my ideal, so it's person-centered, but we didn't get that. We still have no fault. So, but we can't have perfection right now. I can give you any more updates. We are going to have a town hall in 2 weeks from yesterday over at Holland City Hall on auto insurance, an update on roads, listening and seeing what kind of ideas other people have in the community. I'm doing that with Representative Slough, who also represents Holland. So, told you about the DHHS budget. Another thing I think is really important. Michigan's one of the only states that considers 17-year-olds as adults in the criminal system. So when they're at 17, that means there's kids who are 15 years old who are put in prison for the rest of their life. And I have a friend whose cousin is in prison still. I just think, I know for a fact, children don't become full adults with their brain growth until they're 25. At least give them until they're 18. So we have a package of bills to raise the age to 18. Believe it or not, the biggest pushback are counties, because it costs more to keep a juvenile in jail, because they need education, they need extra support. And so then we said, okay, county jails, how much does it cost so that we can make sure that you're reimbursed properly. They have no idea. So, my bill in the package is to make sure that we have a funding source for county jails to be able to make sure that they're, able to provide those extra services for 17-year-olds. And then we're giving them, I think we're giving them 2 or 3 years, I think 3 years, to come up with some hard numbers so that I can set that aside in the DHHS budget. Because all juveniles go through the DHHS budget. I do have updates in there on some other things I'm working on. Can I answer any questions that you guys have? Anybody here?
I have a couple.
Okay, yep, two.
It's great having you here again. Being the attractive resort community that we are, we're having an increasing problem, issues with short-term rentals and getting more and more complaints from neighbors who have Airbnbs next door,
Yep.
2 doors down, and all that. So I know you're probably familiar with this House Bill 4046.
Yes.
Is that, can you give us your view? Do you think that's going to go through? Because it strikes us as taking
Yes.
as little power we have away from the local government.
So, I do know for a fact, because I've read through the bill, we've had conversations, is that bill just says you can't ban them completely,
Right.
but locals can have as many ordinances as they want. But it's been perceived that it was taking away all local control,
Right.
and so I don't think it's going to advance at all. I think it's pretty cool what happened in Saugatuck Township, which is where I live. They put it on the ballot, do you want to allow short-term rentals or not? It passed that we wanted to allow it. So then the township supervisor and the board put together, they put together ordinances. They hired an outside company that's available 24/7 to have rapid response to issues. And I'm hearing very positive things from that. So if you want to give Alan Oberheiser a call, and see if that helps. But the biggest thing is rapid response to issues, having a police force ready and willing to help you out.
Because we get emails on Sunday morning, someone writes us at 3 a.m. Saturday, well, we're not usually in the office then.
Right, and then you're not nipping it in the bud right then and there, and people are frustrated, and then they get mad at their neighbors.
We're on your side, we're doing what we can.
Right.
No,
So
that's
that might be
helpful.
something
And
that-
then we have our planning commission chair here too,
Okay.
so maybe we can reach out to over it. And
Absolutely, because it's
that's how
important for our
now
community
the cats
too,
go together.
right? And people should have a right to be able to rent their houses
Yeah.
if they want, but we
maybe
need
we
to make
need
sure
more
that
ordinances.
we're taking care of the bad players in it all.
Okay.
Because I live in a neighborhood where we actually, it's a association, so we had 100% of our members vote to eliminate all short-term rentals. You can have 3 months or more, which is really unusual. Most communities can't do that. But I have bachelor parties next to my house, maybe once a month. But the rest of the time, we're really nice people. They're like, come on over, we're having a bonfire, have some burgers with us. So we just want to make sure that the bad players are addressed.
In one sense, it's a good problem to have,
Right.
but let's be reasonable.
Yeah,
about it.
reasonable, and make sure that we're respecting our neighbors, because we still live here.
No, that's very helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Secondly, I've read some things, I don't know if the bills in this place, Griffin, who's now our township manager, and I've been talking about this as treasurer, and I just want to kind of bring this up as something that maybe down the road we can talk to you more directly about, and that's the issue of, as you know, the diminishing profit sharing between the state and local
Yeah.
communities. We've not gotten any more share in 30 years.
I know, and we
Control the state
keep
budget,
increasing
we
it,
had the
but-
rollbacks, and
Yeah.
like I said, I just want to bring that up as something that
thank you.
maybe you or your staff can help us.
And that came up the other day too. A big court case was happened, talking about the Headley Amendment in
Right.
local municipalities.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that's gonna pay out. I'm curious how much we're gonna have to set aside and appropriate to bring you guys whole.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be nice to just go back to where we were, you know,
Yeah.
with this.
I do know for a fact, every year, we have a whole new budget bill. We have bills, we can cut revenue sharing completely,
Yeah.
but I would never do that. And so you have my word
Yeah, okay.
that I'm gonna keep pushing to make sure that we're increasing that every year. That was my priority for the local government share. It actually went up 5%, the amount of money going into revenue sharing, but I didn't see it trickle down very much to our community.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, good,
but I've got a firm commitment to that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
Can I have a question back to no fault?
Yes.
You cited 2 statistics, so I'm confused. The people who opt out, you give a 40% statistic, and then you said 10.
Yes.
So the people who opt out of the lifetime benefit, what type of?
The greatest decrease, 40%.
40%.
And so there's, I think it's like, full coverage the way we have it now for health care benefits. And then it's like 250,000 and 500,000 are the things. I actually.
Are the options?
Where you can choose from, so you're gonna have to sign your life away when you go with your insurance agent.
So I think you've met with my needs, but the people who are covered now under it, will they be losing?
Not at all.
Caretakers.
The current system, on the current amount of money, actuaries go through and figure out how many people need the benefits,
Right.
what's it gonna cost, and how much money is in this fund. And that's why we gave an extra, I think, paid an extra $200 last year.
Okay.
To make that whole. So it's completely whole for the people who are in it.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, I know, she was so worried, I felt so bad for her.
Yeah.
Very,
Very
all
worried.
that's all covered. Just some of the numbers though, which I found interesting. 0.1% of all claims, insurance claims in the state, goes into this NCCA, for the catastrophic fund.
Oh.
It's a very small number.
Yeah.
0.1%. 94.4% of all claims are actually under $50,000. And then 99.1% of all auto accident claims are under $250,000. So it ends up being a small amount. So that
Right.
kind of goes along with my theory to have a person-centered, take it case by case.
Yeah.
But, so those are some good numbers, but you know, when it's bad, it's really bad. So how do you make sure that we're okay?
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been gone in less than a month. So,
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just a comment, thank you for all of your work that you're doing, in particular the work with CHS and EMH and the juvenile justice system. I've worked for Allen County Family Court for many years and the treatment facility and as a juvenile probation officer, and I'm a foster parent and a adoptive parent, and there's just so much work to be done.
We need to have more conversation.
And when you front load it and give them the services on the front end, you're not gonna see as much in the jails and, in the treatment facility, it's much more mental health to dealing with, so it's really.
The sheer number, when we hear about the AIDS study and everything, the sheer number of people who have, mental illness as adults were traumatized as children. So if we can get them the support they can. So I actually have a bill, I think it's on there, my Michigan Cares hotline. What it does is it links up somebody to help when they first ask for it. Gets you an appointment, gets an actual provider in your neighborhood. There's so many providers out there, but the reimbursement is so low, so how do they advertise, right? And they do some, but this will build up a whole database of those and link it with people. And this bill, it passed we got 98 yes votes out of the House. But at that point then, the department worked even harder to make sure we had something that was going to be functional. So they studied all over the country what states are doing, and in Georgia, they have a system where we're actually gonna align it, and we've got a sub for my bill going into the Senate Health Policy that's gonna, have one focus for all of our hotlines in the state and include rapid response regions throughout. So if somebody is in trouble, in crisis, they go straight to a crisis center. And I've got, legislation I'm almost ready to introduce. This way to set up certifications. This is what I told you not to do. So that these facilities can be licensed as crisis. And then I also have legislation I've already introduced to have transitional. So I think we can keep about 90% of individuals out of an inpatient psychiatric hospital, and as long as we put them in the right place. So when you talk about hospital beds in the state, I don't think we need so many state hospital beds, but if we get people in the right spot right away, I think that's where we're gonna start making some headway. Thank you. Thanks for what you've done. Not easy. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'll get my little jingle bell.
Okay. We'll come again whenever.
And call me any.
Bring guests anytime.
Enjoy the recess.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. You call me anytime. Okay.
All right, now turning to the treasurer's report. Before we get into the main financials I want to report to everyone, I do want to take a minute to acknowledge and make sure everyone on the board and in the audience, staff are aware. Last week, Pat Nickelbein passed away, and Pat had served as treasurer of the township from 1992 to 2012, quite a long run. And in fact, there's only been 4 treasurers in the township since the 1980s. Patty Burkholz held the seat before Pat, and then Lori Babinski, and now I have the honor of being there. But Pat was very much loved by the community, had a wonderful family, and was always cheery and friendly, and a really hard worker and public servant. The family has not decided on any service at this point. Her husband died just, I think, 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So when it's appropriate, I'd like the township, whether it's a proclamation or just to acknowledge our sympathies to the family. But I do want to acknowledge that with the audience tonight. And then turning, going high-tech with my treasurer's report. Thank you, Griffin. The main things I report on every month, just to tell you, our general fund bank balance as of today is $2.35 million. I think it was 2.4 on the nose a month ago, so it remains very healthy, and is maintaining that 3 years of general fund expenses that we are required to do. On the investment front, I only report this quarterly, but our certificate of sorry, deposit, thank you. CD, I'm thinking music. All right, never mind. Our CD is valued as of today at $746,700. It's up about $2.7 thousand since I last reported to you in May. Just an alert, the audit will be coming up shortly on the end of our fiscal year 19, which ended on June 30th. We've booked time. They will be on site for their annual work with us the week of October 21st. Next week, we're having a special meeting, so Cindy and Griffin, who are fairly new to the team, can meet with Dan Veldhuizen, our auditor, who we've had several meetings with, but that's all in good shape. The checklist has been distributed, and we're starting to collect information. Looking back at the end of the fiscal year, which we've not formally closed yet, there are still some bills coming in that are June expenses, but again, we maintain very positive news. Revenues through June 30th, total revenue was 14% ahead of what we had budgeted. And interestingly enough, our expenses were under by 15%. So kind of a wash there, but a good one. And just a couple things I thought I'd point out. Cemetery revenues were 44% over budget for the year, which is pretty striking. And then on the expense side, and I apologize for my typo here, but tree removals was one of the lines that was kind of out of control. It didn't take that department out of control, but we had a lot of wind and storms, so I think we did add to that budget. The new tax year started July 1st. People are paying their bills, and I've already made the first 2 disbursements to our tax partner agencies for the month of July. So that's all running smoothly, and I think that is everything I wanted to report. If you have any questions, feel free. Otherwise, we'll move forward.
Okay, then we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to look over the minutes?
Yes.
And did we find any corrections?
Dave Eiley,
Yeah.
his last name needs to be corrected.
Well, actually, let's go back.
Which page?
Wait, let's go in order.
Page
1,
okay.
this is 1, 2. Public comment, Rebecca Israels, it's ISR AELS, like the country. There might be others, and then yes. Before we get to Dave Eiley, though, it's at page 2, Emergency Services Committee. I just thought, second line where it says the committee is accepted for us to rejoin, so maybe it's better to say the committee has accepted our rejoining. And then the next line, take action at the next, just would insert board meeting. And then we get to the Eiley, which could be it.
Well, we got something else on the same page.
Say it again?
Oh,
Publicly, would like to
Ooh, good one.
publicly thank Peggy Conklin.
yep.
Public. And then I missed the Eiley.
There's 1, 2, there's 4 Ileys on that page.
Okay, Eileen's no,
Yeah.
okay. All
And,
right,
next page, board of review, Israel's again.
okay,
Israel's twice there,
okay.
line 2, line 3.
And on the bottom of that page, the very bottom, right, or at the end where it says rezone, at C3, it says zone.
Okay.
Top of the next page, let's see, second line, second sentence, there is not mentioned, just there is no mention. Harbor Authority and buoy placement, third line from the bottom, again, it ended at like Brett Burkholz, it's H-O-L-Z.
No T.
No,
No T.
no,
You're right.
did I, yeah, H-O-L-Z. Alright. Next page, Kalamazoo Lake Water and Sewer. McWigan, I mean, it's capital G, right? Is the rest
I
of it-
looked that one up, I feel like,
Is
no.
the rest spelled right? Just the capital?
I don't know, I'll
I'm
look
asking
it.
Cynthia, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Oh, I thought McWig.
capital G-U-I-G-A-N.
There is another G.
Okay, that's, thank you.
Got it, thank you.
And then that same paragraph,
Yep.
waterhead, I think it's wellhead.
I think whoever said it said waterhead, but,
Okay.
then I need to change that, I can't.
That's always good. Oh, public comment, bottom of the page. Rob June, it's J-O-O-N.
Admittedly, I did not.
That's okay.
Check my own work.
That's all I have.
Okay, all right.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes of July 3rd meeting with the corrections.
Okay, is there support? I'll support. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. And then, in our packet, we have a correspondence about short-term rentals, which we just did talk about. This is from Taylor Lawbrick, and she has some suggestions about how we could make our ordinance better. She could look at it at a future meeting when we get together with planning commission. Any questions about that? We'll just accept this information. Then, next up is the Emergency Service Committee, Ambulance Membership Representative.
Membership. Okay.
Yeah, membership and representative.
Right. So we received last week the revision from AMR for the new contract to go into effect on August 1st for a period of 5 years, which would now, if we so vote, include restoring ambulance service south of the Kalamazoo River throughout Saugatuck Township as we had it for some 20 years or so. The revised contract came in, and I caught the fact that Saugatuck Township and Manlius Township do not pay an equal share of the six. They pay half of that share. So that has gone back for revision, so that's in play. You have a copy of the agreement, but the amount that we will pay in the first year is $5,805, and even with the increases over 5 years, in 2023, our share will be $6,791 a year, which is lower than we last paid when we pulled out of this agreement.
I think we need to redo that math, because we don't pay half of the 1/6, we pay half 1/5.
It's 6 now, isn't it?
But
Oh, because there's two.
Because there's
There's
two.
two
So
in that
it's gonna be
situation.
more than,
That's
it's gonna be more
okay.
than this amount that you had there. but I think.
Right, 'cause I didn't know about Manlius being in the same.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't
All right,
know on the first.
well, in that case, I won't do it now. Let me revisit that and share that with everyone. They haven't gotten it back to us. It's supposed to go into effect, haven't gone into effect already.
But
So, go ahead.
they did acknowledge that that
Oh,
was
yeah.
an error.
Oh, yeah, and
in the-
that email's in the.
Right.
That was
Absolutely.
their mistake and no one caught it, so. It needs a little more fine tuning, I agree now, so.
Well, I guess we have some options.
Yeah, I mean, we could move to accept it upon its correction and final review.
By
Otherwise,
legal
we'd have to
counsel
wait
and
until-
our manager.
Right, yeah.
Should we move to?
Well, I was gonna, okay, sure, let's do it. All right. So I'd like to move that the board authorizes our clerk and supervisor to sign the new agreement with AMR to provide ambulance service once the payment schedule is corrected and clarified to our understanding and upon satisfactory review by our township manager and legal counsel as necessary.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? No discussion. So let's do this with a voice vote, please. Aldrich?
Yes.
Bigsford?
Yes?
Osmond, yes. Comrich?
Yes.
Marcy?
Yes.
Motion carried.
At our last meeting, we had opened up the application process for the representative for the, Emergency Services Committee, and we've had one applicant, and that's Tony Skippa. Would we like to invite Tony to come up and, talk about his interest and why you applied, why we should choose you?
Tony, what we really want you to address is it Skippa or Shippa?
Yes.
We've all been debating.
Well, you were
Skipper,
Skipper, weren't you?
Right.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
We won't say who said what.
I know, when I spoke with you, I think it was last night or the night before, you had intended to look at the contract as well. Did you have a chance to do that?
I briefly looked it over, and what I would say, I know you got some corrections to make, and so on. I know that, AMR would be more than happy to make it right. I know that, ambulance board members down there are eager and wanting to get things straightened out and get it back the way it was, so, I'm sure you'll have no problem with all that happening. But you asked me about my interest, what,
Your qualifications.
my qualifications, well, I was in rural EMS for 35 years. I worked for Saugatuck Fire for 25. I was their EMS coordinator director for the first responders for 18 of that 25. I was a first responder, became an EMT basic. 20 plus years ago, it was Mercy Ambulance at the time, which now is AMR. Mr. Steve Stegman and Douglas Perry. They were in town on an ambulance one day, and they said, "Hey, Shippa, you want a job? We need an EMT in Fenville on Monday." I said, "Sure, I'll take the job." So I went to work for AMR, or for Mercy, which is now AMR, and I worked there for 20 years. I became a EMT specialist, I became a paramedic, and for the last 15 years on that ambulance, I was the lead paramedic, and, ran hundreds of calls, and we serviced all the areas that are in that contract. I'm well versed in how the calls are supposed to go. I'm well versed in the time frames it's supposed to take the ambulance to get from point A to point B. I've studied those reports for 20 years, the time reports that we'll be looking at on that committee. And I just have a passion that we have a good, solid ambulance service, that they're looked at, that they're held accountable, not that they're not going to be, that they're going to be anything wrong, but we just have to oversee that. That's our position. You as a board, and us as a Fenville Area Ambulance Board, is to make sure that everything is running smoothly. Reviewing the run reports, why does it take so long for this ambulance to get from point A to point B, just research and find out and help AMR correct those things. I have a lot of knowledge of locations of places, and again, I can help them understand, especially new medics and so on. But yeah, I just have a desire to serve and make this the best community that we can have for an ambulance service.
That's great.
That all?
That all? Well, yeah, that's for now. Still one more.
I'd like to underscore and thank you. Your passion on this issue over the last several years has been incredible and very helpful to us as we became more acquainted in our new roles and understanding this. So, thank you. Job well done.
Pleasure, and, an honor to be here, to be able to do this, and if you guys decide that it's me, if you haven't, unless somebody's more qualified than I, but I'm glad.
Well, we could hold it over.
There's a long line coming in.
I see that, they're knocking at the door there.
Okay. Well, before anything changes, I'd like to move it, once we have the contract correct and signed with AMR for Saugatuck Township to rejoin the Emergency Services Committee, that Tony Ship would be our township representative on said committee.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Wow, I'll third that. All right, you guys.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, we haven't voted yet.
No more discussion?
I'm just happy this is one of the things that we were passionate about in the recall, that it's another accomplishment that
Very good, yes.
we really wanted to do, so I'm so happy it's finally happening.
Okay.
I think he'll be a great addition to that board. I know that I don't know that. I expect that most of those people do not have anywhere near the experience that you do. So I think you can help those other communities as well, and educate them so we can all get the best service that's
Yes,
available.
and I've actually
Thank you.
worked with all those people for 20 years. They always had their meetings at the Fenville Area Ambulance Base. So I've known each and every one of them, so, I got a personal relationship with all of them. So it'll be easy to talk to them and help them all understand and make this a quick job. All right, cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now we're back to John for a Harbor Authority and Michigan Tech study update.
This will be very short. We did attend last month's Harbor Authority, not as a member, but just informationally, and have invited the chair of the Kalamazoo Lake Harbor Authority, Mike Van Loon from the city of Douglas, and I believe Ken Trester from Saugatuck will be joining Mike at our September meeting. They will, at that meeting, be presenting to us a proposed plan on Saugatuck Township considering becoming a full-fledged voting member of the Kalamazoo Lake Harbor Authority, and they will outline the stipulations and the financial issues, which they told us would be right where they were back when I was on the authority, so.
You were not voting though.
I was not voting.
I hope, we're gonna
But we were entertaining
try
this
to.
proposal then. They were willing to let the township in at no financial cost, no recovery of fees they may have paid in the beginning of setting it up, and just moving forward with every community would have the independence. If a project comes up that costs money, like this potential study, you can vote yes or no. It's not majority rules. So we'll hear from Mike and Ken in September, but I'm glad that's moving forward and that we're talking to them again, and they've been very welcoming to us. Likewise, they, the authorities, because we talked earlier in an earlier meeting about this potential Michigan Tech hydrology and toxin study in the harbor. The feeling is, and the two cities agree, the two governments, that the authorities should be making that recommendation. So let them take that. We don't have to study that any further at this point. There is a cost issue there, and we'll find out more about that. And that's where things stand.
Thank you. So now we come to new business, and I wanted to talk about the fire code update. I'm gonna let Griffin review this, ordinance that has been submitted. He did a lot of work preparing for it and making sure he understood all the issues.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Before we get started, I appreciate the chief taking the time to be here tonight. He made sure he would be here to help answer any questions any of you may have that I may not be able to give the fire district perspective from. So we're really appreciative that he's here. But as summarized in the staff report in front of you and as we're showing on the screen for the audience, it's been a priority of the township board since I started to readdress some items on the fire code that have been previously amended. That is what this that's in front of you will do. It will reinstate some previously amended clauses, including adopting the 2015 edition of the International Fire Code. I know there's been some conversation amongst the board in the past about the 2018 code. It's not quite in line yet with the 2018 International Building Code, and until those two are able to speak to each other and fall more in line, we're going to go back to the 2015 code where we can address the 2018 International Fire Code in the future. But what these amendments will do is also provide for a Board of Appeals, rework some cost recovery provisions, as well as changes how the township treats violations from a misdemeanor to a municipal civil infraction. The takeaway I would like you all to see from the staff report is these changes will more closely align the township's fire code provisions with the two cities in the area, which will not only provide for some consistency among the tri-communities, but my understanding is it will also make it easier for the fire district to enforce in the area. If it pleases the board, Chief, do you have any additions you would like to make to those comments?
I'm just really glad on behalf of the fire department to see this get reinstated. It's really for the citizens' benefit. There's things they don't understand. There's reasons for the codes. I'm happy to see this reinstated. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last thing I'll share is that these are reinstating some previously amended items. There will more than likely be future discussions about other potential changes in the future, but at this point, for not only an understanding for the township board, but also for a smooth transition for all of our residents and enforcement, we figured that this would be the easiest route for everyone to take and understand.
Thank you.
I have a question. Before this fire code was, amended, it was my understanding that you couldn't go to a call, like in one of those short-term rentals, because you were bound by the code, that you couldn't do that. Now, would that open this up, that you could respond now to those calls?
Yes.
Okay.
We would be subject to a zoning administrator. We could respond on demand.
Okay.
Any more questions for Griffin or for the chief? I would entertain a motion.
Okay.
Sorry.
This might be a harder one to answer, and I know this was reviewed by one of our attorneys as well. If someone were here tonight, because I know there have been varying opinions of this in the past, when the township took the action that it took, and now we're trying to reverse and restore that. Are there any one or two issues that anyone could share that someone who would be against us doing this might want us to be aware of?
Sure. What I would first say is there are reasonable arguments and reasonable conclusions for both sets of the codes. The original code, the amended code, and now the reinstated code. There are reasonable thoughts for both of those. My understanding is when it was amended last, there were some concerns about the characteristics of a township making us different from the two cities that were concerned to those board members and many members of the public at that time, which is, in my personal opinion, completely understandable. However, that also has some fire protection implications, as the chief has mentioned, and members of the fire district have voiced. So there are reasonable explanations for both sides that I think people would bring to all of your attention. The one is that the notable change, the second bullet point, is when it was amended last, it added some provisions about single-family and two-family homes that made them exempt from certain aspects of the code, and this would reinstate the code where those exemptions no longer apply.
Were those like driveways, things like that?
Driveways and water supplies.
So, just for clarification, because some of this gets to be confusing, The fire code is only applicable in 3 areas for residential. Only 3 areas: address, premise identification, access roads, and water supply. Only those 3 areas. 3 of the most important things: we need to find you, we need to be able to get to you, we need water to put out fires. Those were the only things that didn't regulate anything else, nothing interior, unless, let's take an example of, say, dune grass development. Concession was made on the road widths. That concession, they gave up road widths, they put sprinkler systems in. That requirement then allowed us to regulate sprinkler systems along with the mechanical and building code. So, you know, one of the things you hear, and it's understandable to a point, is there's a tendency to dismiss access. Certainly an understandable tendency to, I don't want a water supply for every house. We've never required a water supply for one house. I've been here 20 years. We've never done that. We changed by policy under Chief Block's term, 3 or more houses constituted development, then a water supply would be provided. So that's what was our, kind of our modification for the area to be sensitive. You know, we're as price sensitive as the next person. So that's really what it, you know, the Michigan residential code, it's not the building code that regulates houses, it's the Michigan residential code. The fire code does not regulate residential, only exterior, just address signs, access road, and a water supply. It's 3 areas, that's all.
And I would also point out that there is a Board of Appeals. For anybody who is aggrieved by a decision of the fire department, can make applications to the Board of Appeals and propose an alternate that would retain the same safety, much like what was done with dune grass. So,
That's correct.
any more questions? No more questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to move to approve the attached ordinance to amend Chapter 16, Articles 2 and 3 entitled International Fire Code and Cost Recovery of the Code of Ordinances.
Any support?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? Should we voice vote? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we're up back to John again, unless he wants to stay with Griffith for the,
No, yeah, we're
budget
gonna let Griffin take it.
Okay, let's.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll chime in if necessary. Or just for fun. I will say, I am pleased, proud, thrilled beyond the words that in the last month, Griffin has already been able to take on so much of the budget responsibilities that I took over temporarily, and it's a great relief, but even more importantly, it's exciting to see how well he's mastering it, at least appears to be mastering it, in such a short amount of time. So, we're not done working together, but go for it, thanks.
So I will keep this, this overview short. It's just attached to some initial requested budget amendments. What I would like to call your attention to for these is they are the result of placement issues unknown during the original budgeting process. These amendments do not impact the intent of their originally adopted budget at all. They are just ensuring that revenues and expenditures are documented properly. This is not anyone in the organization asking for more money. It's not anyone in the organization saying we have too much money. It's just making placement issues, correcting those.
Any questions for Griffith? Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept these proposed, August 2019 budget amendment requests to our 2019-2020 budget as presented in this August 7th memo from Griffin Gray.
Support?
Support that.
Any more discussion? those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next, under our new business is the conditional rezoning ordinance language for Aaron Smith at 3577 64th Street. Griffin?
Thank you. This is a situation I think everyone on the board is fairly familiar with at this point. I'd like to welcome the applicant and thank him again for being here. This is not a revisiting of the topic or the decision that was made at the July 3rd meeting, but instead it's the formal next step to codify that decision. So what's in front of you today is the formal zoning ordinance codifying that rezoning that was approved at the last board meeting.
I don't know if anybody's interested in hearing this, but I was up in Muskegon a couple weeks ago, and I called Aaron Smith up and asked if I could tour his facility up there, and Greg and Aaron met me up there and showed me what they've been doing, and I was just blown away by the amount of, just fine-tuning everything you can imagine from, 36 cameras and, bulletproof glass, and what they did to the landscape of the place. It's just a beautiful, beautiful facility, and I think we'd be so lucky to have them in Saugatuck that they'll do just a great job if it's anything like the Muskegon business. And I'm hoping that we all can go up there and visit and see what they've done.
Thank you, whenever you guys want.
And there's a grow facility he's just starting, too, in the back, a warehouse that's just top-notch, and, just everything about it. It's such an improvement in the area that was there before that, pretty amazing what you've done for Muskegon.
Thank you.
Okay, I understand that they still need to get a special land use approval from the planning commission?
Correct. This is only, this is
just for the
associated.
rezoning.
Correct.
Okay.
And if approved, we would be able to move forward with the conditional rezoning agreement that was voted on in July, and they then would be able to move forward with their SAU application.
Any other questions? I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2019-07 as written and authorize the township supervisor and township clerk to sign the conditional rezoning agreement as edited by legal counsel.
I'll second that.
We'll do another voice vote on that. Marcy?
Yes.
Elmer?
Yes.
Osmond? Yes. Bigford?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, we just have a few more things. Personnel policy update, we have a discussion item, and I'm going to let Kristen do that as well.
You do. Thank you. So over the last month, staff has taken significant time to complete a comprehensive review of the township's personnel policies